Welcome everyone to the Heart Awakening series. I'm Patricia Connor, and today we have a wonderful, wonderful guest. We are so honored to have Farhana Dhalla.
Thank you.
And Farhana is an international bestseller, and the name of her book is Thank You for Leaving Me. So welcome, Farhana.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you, Patricia.
And I love the name of the book. How did you come up with the name of the book?
Okay, so I had done this little journaling exercise at like 5 in the morning, and I had come up with a bunch of names. This was one of them, and it was the only one that I had starred. And then a week later, I'm at one of my, mastery meetings with some friends, and one of them says, "I've just come up with my book title." And what's that? And she says, "Thank You for Dying." And I'm like, that's an awesome title, but I'm going, oh my God, that's so close to Thank You for Leaving Me. I can't use that title.
Wow.
And then so for 3 months I worked with other titles. And then I actually called her one day because none of the other titles were working for me. And I said, she's a UN practitioner. So I said to her, can I get you to just test the strength of 3 names? She said, yeah. And I said, okay, name number 1, but I didn't tell her the names. So she tested. She goes, no, weak. Name number 2. I go, and she goes, weak. And then she goes, name number 3. She goes, that's it. And I go, yeah, I know, but here's the thing. It's called Thank You for Leaving Me. She goes, that's an awesome name. I go, yeah, but it's so close to your book, Thank You for Dying. And she said, I totally decided not to write the book. She goes, about the next day, I just kind of forgot to tell you guys. Oh my God. I'm like, really? So you'd be okay with me using that? She goes, yeah, no. She goes, I think I was just there to jar you to take it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm like, look at that. So for 3, she goes, why didn't you call me earlier? And I go, I just didn't, I didn't know. So she's like, yeah, no, you should have called me right away because it was always yours. She goes, because I only decided to write a book like basically one day, told you guys the next day, and then decided the next day I wasn't writing it. So it must have only been to jar you.
Yeah. So it was a perfect name for your book.
Yeah.
Now, your book is about your journey through divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And I must say that I read the book and I love it. It's excellent. And what I loved about it was that you were so authentic and you really told it the way it happened. Am I right in saying that?
Yes, certainly from my eyes,
Yes, of course.
Right.
Of course. Yes.
Yeah, I wanted it to be authentic. I mean, it wasn't going to be the book I was going to write. Like I was going to write something that was a bit more clinical and a bit more perfect and more sellable, so to speak, or at least so I thought. And in the meditation, I got that book that I was working on, which was How to Have a Happy Divorce, which was all good stuff, but frankly boring. It was everything you could Google, and I figure if you can Google it, don't write it. Mm-hmm. Write from something that's actually that can bring more.
Mm-hmm.
If you can Google it, it's sort of that piece is kind of done.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got the inspiration, meditation to tell me to put the journal into a book, I was hesitant because it is so revealing.
That was my next question because it takes a lot of courage to be authentic and to really, I almost want to say bleed onto the page because there was pain in what you went through, obviously. And but the way that you did it and the way that you brought in all the teachers, I love that. And you talk about your mom, you talk about your father-in-law, but you also talk about your children.
My big teachers.
Your big teachers. And one of the things that I loved was the part when your daughter wanted you to put together a life board. Can you tell me about that part?
Yeah, it was this moment I was listening to my daughter talk to my baby daughter saying, let's go lifeboarding. And I said, what is that? And I had just been brushing my hair, saying, give me a sign of peace somewhere because I'm not feeling peace right now. And then somehow my ear just captures this conversation. And I said, what is that? And she goes, what we were doing the other day when we were dreaming of our dream kitchen? And I said, oh. So then I really got the message, because I asked for peace. Yeah, bring bigger visions into your life. And she's talking to the baby, saying, "Let's go lifeboarding." And I realized, yeah, it's all life. Like we just got to get better surfers, and we got better at surfing life's waves, and we got to create bigger visions and more beautiful. So she's the one. And it was actually that moment, like the moment I heard lifeboarding, I went, oh, that's a chapter in a book. Oh, I'm writing a book. Like that was how I got, that was the first time I was told I was writing a book. Otherwise I didn't even know until that moment.
Yes. And what I loved about it was that how you put it together, because it's the lotus flower. And the lotus flower has 96 petals. And you have 96 vignettes in your book. So how did that come about?
Well, the lotus flower goes through 3 distinct stages, and so in the beginning, the first stage of the book is much like the lotus flower, which is the seed born in the muck, and there's a lot of muck. It's murky, it's not clear, it's a lot of this, a lot of that, a lot of anger, a lot of fear, every kind of vomitous type of emotion is right there, right on the ready, and that's how the seed of the lotus is born, right in that. But then it transcends up the vine, and as it transcends up the vine, it actually faces, the bud faces inward. And the second stage of the book is really when I start to go inside, this was the toughest question I ever asked myself. And it was, in what ways am I 100% responsible for the demise of my marriage? And when I started to ask that question, I started to see a whole bunch of stuff that I was like, wow. But that inward process that I was going through really helped me declutter, and because I was now taking responsibility for it, I became more powerful. And I realized why that power occurs is because then we start to see ourselves, because when we start to take responsibility of our life, even the crappy bits, then what we're doing is we're acknowledging ourselves as a master creator of our life. So now, when we add that with some big juicy visions like Lifeboarding and all of that, once we've acknowledged that we can create this vision out here, but if we take responsibility, we're actually developing our own acknowledgement of ourselves as that which they can create. And so then we match those together.
Right.
And that becomes the third stage of the lotus flower. And that's when the bud reaches the surface and it gets kissed by the sun, and it blooms, it blossoms, just like it was always intended to do.
It was perfect for you. And the 3 stages that you went through.
And it was really the beauty of my editor, and oh my goodness, there's nothing worth its weight in gold like a good editor. The beauty of my editor that was also able to kind of help me come to that. So it was really gorgeous. It was very gorgeous.
So how was it when you self-published the book, did you, initially?
Initially, yes.
And how was it when all of a sudden you saw your book? I mean, here it is. This is what you had been writing and what you had been working on for. How long did you work on it for?
Oh, I had lots of stops and starts. First of all, I was resistant. I didn't want to write the book. It was my journal. I didn't, so I was really annoyed with Spirit's voice. But then I couldn't write that other, clinical book anymore because it was it had nothing on it now that I've already been told this was the book. And then, so it had stops and starts. It had where I sent the book out and tried to get feedback.
Yes.
And feedback is another way of saying, approve me, approve me.
Yes, it is.
So,
and how did that go?
You know what? Probably 95% of it was great. And one person said, I can remember one person saying how much they didn't like it, and I couldn't hear anything else.
Isn't that amazing how we do that to ourselves?
So the book went shelved, bam, another 8 months like that, like I couldn't, Wow. And I remember then moving to the toaster oven one day to put something in, and I heard this voice inside me that said, why did you start listening to them and stop listening to me?
And then you took a deep breath, I'm sure, like I'm doing right now, just listening to what you're saying.
And then I knew it was time to pull her out again. And so it's had its own abbreviations. This book has been shelved many times. Also because I could feel the power in it too.
Yes.
And I kind of knew, certainly between first and second edition, that it was going to take its own life, and I didn't know if I had the capacity to handle the bigness of the book. And then the book, Judy told me, get out of the way. Like, you think it has something to do with you.
No.
Like, really, it's kind of my story. It kind of has something to do with me.
You wrote it.
Like, hello. It was like, no, we're here on, you know, it's come here with its own karmic path, and all we're asking is get out of the way, let it just be out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so really all I've had to do is let it be out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's doing its own thing.
And a lot of the times that's the most difficult thing to do,
Mm-hmm.
because you want to hold on to it,
Yeah.
you feel that it's your book,
Yeah.
but it's actually the world's book.
Mm-hmm.
And do you feel that it has helped people, not only going through divorce, but just going through life's journey?
Oh, I hear about it all the time. And I'm so grateful, because I understand for all the books that I have read that have impacted me, I have never written to an author to tell them of the impact that it's had on me. So the idea that I received so many you know, letters and stuff. At one time, before I took it to second edition, and then of course the system changes so I can't track it as well, because the first edition was all kind of housed, me, I knew the numbers, I knew the thing, right? But before it went to second edition, I had a 40% reader response, people writing in.
Wow, that's amazing.
I know.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was told by a publishing company, if an author gets 4%, that's considered out of this world, to get 40. So I knew from that there was something that was occurring for people with the book. And most people will say, it felt like you wrote my story. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, huh, isn't that fascinating? It was, you know, totally my story, you know, but it's not my story. It's everyone's story.
It's a universal story.
Yeah, it is the universal story. And it doesn't have to do just about divorce. It's not just about divorce. It is really like a platform in which to observe how we be with life. Because life has done, you know, we've been fired, we've been dumped, we've been the dumpy, or we've been whatever. But it's this whole journey of healing from it. It's the whole journey, not even of healing, of identifying, like, healing still has this notion of that we've been done wrong.
Yes.
You know, and I'm kind of bored with that, frankly.
Okay, let's try another word. You know? Or is there a word?
You know, it's, you know, but it's this whole discovery, because everybody, like, you know, when people, you know, hear the title, Thank You for Leaving Me, they get this look in their eyes. It's one of two things. One is, you know, oh, I wish that could happen for me, because they want to be on the other side of the pain. Mm-hmm. Or the second one was, oh, ain't that the truth, right? Because that means they've already made that journey. But that's the same thing for, like, thank you for firing me. You know, I remember someone telling me that his cancer was the biggest gift in his life. So, you know, it is a mindset in which to be able to live with life and her happenings. You see, it's not that interesting. Divorce itself isn't that interesting. Mm-hmm. You know, our disease, job loss, all those things, those are not interesting. We kind of begin to think that they're interesting. You know, we delve ourselves into that. That's got no interest factor whatsoever. But who we become as the result of those things, those are the interesting parts. Right? Right? Mm-hmm. Because crisis only happens in our life because something more wants to manifest. And so if we get interested in what's the more of me that wants to be known here, what's the more of me that wants expression, that is when life gets interesting.
Right, yes. Now you have a quote in the back of the book that says, nothing has been done to you, everything is done for you. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I remember it was one morning I was, you know, commanded to journal, to write. So I got up and I went downstairs and I started writing. And my hand was flying off the paper, like flying so fast I couldn't see. I wasn't even, like, I didn't know what I was writing. I was just, hand was flying. And I rarely read what I write. Mm-hmm. And this time I read and I was like, oh my God, I love the other woman. Because if it wasn't for her, then we wouldn't have come into truth with where we were in our relationship. Mm-hmm. And so someone had to do that. She did that. Mm-hmm. So I was like, as I said, all this love for her. And I was loving the kidney stones that I'd had, because up until that moment I felt I was so alone, like I had no one. And then, you know, and then when I got sick, everybody just showed up and I'm like, oh, I was never alone. How could I even think I was alone? Mm-hmm. And I loved my, like, financial collapse. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. But I love that too, because it totally forced me to reinvent. And I'm like, oh my God, I love this all. I love everything. And that's when I realized that's when I was told, nothing has been done to you, my child. Everything has been done for you.
I love that. I love that because it's so, we hang on to so many things, isn't that true?
Yeah.
And all the pain and all this, and whereas it's just here for us to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to move forward and to become masters of ourselves.
Yeah, like, you know, the thing is, a friend of mine, she calls it looking for the gift in the garbage bag. She goes, oh yeah, master at looking for the gift in the garbage bag. I said, yeah, so I am, so what? Like, I think that that's not such a bad thing.
It's a
you know
wonderful
what I mean?
thing.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, and yeah, you know, there are times I've been accused of being a little delusional, always wanted to Pollyanna up and rosy up my world. So what? There are worse crimes than that. So, you know, so what? Yeah, you know what? That actually puts me in a greater state of peace, knowing, reminding myself that, you know, I'm loved and cared for in this moment too. And if I just hold that, you know, because there have been times I've had to go, how is this love? How is this being done for me? I have to ask that question, and lo and behold, if I'm silent, I find the answer. And then I can just get to peace with what is.
And that's where most of us want to get to, just to be at peace with what is. And how has your life changed by writing this book, Farhana? Or has it?
Well, you know, before bestseller, chop wood, carry water. After bestseller, chop wood, carry water.
Not much has changed.
Life is life, you know. And so the teachings are continuously being unfolded to me, you know, through the pine cone, through the mouths of my babes. So the teachings are continuing to unfold. There's no arrival point. There's no, you know, there's the opportunity to now affect more people, you know, and that I'm so grateful for. But I'm still in my journey. I'm still in my process, and I'm committed to it for all of my life. So I don't know. Things have changed, perhaps, and they haven't changed at all in terms of who I be within my own observation of self, peace. But my life, yeah, I mean, the kids and I are, you know, like I'm grateful. I'm grateful for my life. Is really, yeah, you know, really what it is.
And you do talk about gratitude in the book and about being grateful for everything.
Oh, I so am, but I was thinking, you know, interestingly enough, yesterday as I was driving home, I'm like, do I celebrate with as much gratitude as I did, let's even say, a year ago? And technically, my life is much better on so many accounts. But do I celebrate with as much gratitude? And I thought, there's more of me there. There's more of me to give there's more celebration that's in me that wants to erupt, that I'm not being as free with. And so I've made a new commitment to gratitude.
Great! And can you share that with us? How does that look like, do you think?
Well, it's journaling back up again. So actually also this morning I journaled for the first time in a long time. I hadn't journaled in a while. Almost, I gotta tell you, it's so interesting. Part of me wasn't journaling because I was in fear that they were gonna make me write another book.
What? somehow, Farhana, I think that's what's gonna happen.
So I'm like, oh, I'm not ready for all that yet. So, and then actually the message I got was, no, we're journaling for you. I want you to journal to be in communication. Because you're getting one piece and thinking that's the full story. There's more to be revealed, but it needs you to be in communication. So I'm like, okay.
And maybe communication might be the subject of your next book.
I feel like if I, you know, we'll let them decide about the next book, but I did kind of get the assurance that it won't happen without my permission. You know what I mean? Like, I get to be a willing participant. Nothing is ever pushed in, but I realize my own resistance is, please don't make me write another book yet. I just, you know, it's a beautiful unzipping process, but it is, you know, takes a lot, right? It takes a lot from you, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for all of it, and it's an exfoliation. Like, I just feel like even since this whole thing, my skin's more radiant.
I love it.
You know, like, you just get to be true and real, and you know, that's kind of an awesome way to be with life.
Yes, it is. Yeah. It is. And so you just re-released your book, and it made it to #1 international bestseller.
Yeah.
Even before you wanted it to become the bestseller, didn't it? Didn't you have a date that you sort of wanted it to be?
It became bestseller 8 days before the campaign launch.
Imagine.
And I was like, what's just happened here? So I had a team meeting. I said, okay, so crazy enough, it's a bestseller. And we haven't even begun our thing on it yet. So here's the thing. I said, let's write a press release for 11/11 on launch day to make it an international #1 bestseller. Like I just kind of threw it as far as I could throw it. And lo and behold, it became an international #1 bestseller at that time.
Wow.
I'm like, is that ever the power of intention or what?
It certainly is.
You know, like, oh my goodness. And what was crazy is that my computer, my hard drive crashed. I didn't have any of my marketing materials, nothing. I didn't even have a computer. I had to quickly go to the Apple store and buy a computer so I could handle Facebook comments. And the book just like, I just watched it and it I couldn't believe what was happening. I still to this day have not posted on my own site the book. So everybody else has done it. And I'm like, what is different about this? And I realized, because it had so many people who read it the first time. It had such a people were so loyal to the to wanting the word to get out, and it just moved like wildfire. And that night I thanked everybody, and I said, like it's like an army of angels appeared. Because remember, I lost everything. I didn't have any marketing. And I said it was like an army of angels appeared. And then I remembered something. I found it a couple months later when Spirit told me, just get the book out of your hands. An army of angels will appear.
Wow, really?
That's what happened.
Yeah.
So that's why I know this book is not actually mine. It's already come here to do its thing, and I was just supposed to get out of the way.
Get out of the way for the new one to start. Let that one go. Farhana, you talk a lot about listening, a lot about meditation. Can you talk a little bit about that in your life?
I have become a real fan of what it is my gut tells me, my instincts tell me. I mean, I moved here on the wisdom of a pine cone. I have, I realize that God and Spirit is talking to us all the time, 100% of the time, absolutely. And it's just where you decide to put your focus on, you'll find it. That every single molecule is here with the answer for you. And every single, also, 60 trillion of our cells all have the answer. We know when we've got the answer because we get this little tingle, or we get this opening that happens in our body. Because the truth always makes you feel lighter. You think, oh yeah, that's why when my marriage ended and I got really, it was a sideswipe moment. But when he told me it was over, my first feeling was relief. Because even though it was everything I didn't want to hear, my body knew truth. And so relief, it was an exhale, my cells opened. And so just pay attention to what's happening. Be very, very curious as to what's happening inside. And you can get your answer anywhere. You can decide, I'm really, give me guidance on this. And then you pick up this beautiful ornate pillow that you have there and you just look at it and it will speak to you. And so I'm a fan of God is Alpha Omega in everything, in absolutely everything. So just decide your point of focus. Sometimes it's from a, throw of a tarot card. So what? Sometimes it's on a mosaic. Sometimes it's in prayers. Sometimes it's with nature. Just intend for that moment that you're listening, and your listening skills, your observation skills are on alert for the message.
That's lovely. Thank you for sharing that, because that's really something that I believe as well as many other people. But I find that some people are just scared to hear. They don't want to listen because they're scared of what they will hear. Do you ever get negative messages? They've
been messages, I wouldn't say negative messages.
Okay.
They've been stuff that I would prefer not to know.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you don't know until you're ready to know. And so if you know it, it's because now it's time to know. I was blind to a lot of things in my own marriage. So for example, there was one time an interviewer asked me, was Valentine's Day the first time you knew your husband was having an affair? And I was like, no, because all of a sudden I remembered something. And I remembered looking at him on New Year's Eve, and I'd said to him, we're walking, we were just crossing each other. And I said, oh my God, guess what? I said, there's another woman. I said, she's got brown curly hair, she works at a supplier, she's young. Like I had like cold hit, bang, bang, bang. And I said, and you're sweet on her. He goes, no, 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 that is, there's a girl there. He goes, but she's sweet on me. I go, you're sweet on her, Jane. And I said, and then I let it go. And she said, oh, are you upset that you let it go? And I was like, listen to my body again, and it was like, no. Somewhere in there I found forgiveness for myself. Because what I now also realize that if I had followed up on it then, we wouldn't have had our third child. There was still more to be done. So if you hear something, if you're now in awareness of something, you're in awareness because it's time now. So don't berate for all the time of not knowing. It wasn't time. And it's time now. And you're only in the now with it because you're fully equipped to handle it. So yeah, there have been times I've received messages I didn't particularly love. But I know, because I know the universe loves me, I know that it is a form of love for me knowing it now. So.
Beautiful, beautiful. Many people will listen to this interview, Farhana, around the world. Is there something, a message that you have that you would like to share with the world at this time?
You're God's favorite child.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're absolutely God's favorite child. You always have been, and somewhere deep inside you, you've always known that too. And so as things come, because life will come, she'll give you experiences. You just have to know and remember, you're God's very favorite.
Lovely. I'll just let sit for that for just a minute. Yeah, it's bringing tears to my eyes. Oh, that's lovely, Farhana. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for being part of the series. We are so honored to have you. And where can people get your book?
Probably the easiest place would be on Amazon. And certainly you can go to thankyouforleavingme.com. And there's a link right there, and you can find it on all different types of mediums and formats there. But also there's a bunch of gifts for you to download if you get it from thankyouforleavingme.com. And it'll whip you right into Amazon or wherever it is you need to go. But come visit us there, would ya?
Okay. So thank you once again, and hopefully we'll see you again
Lovely.
soon.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much, Patricia.